Hallelujah. One lovely lady laughing as she wakes into the big bright morning light. Hallelujah. Too many days ago she sings hallelujah for each tasty bite in the big bright morning light. And she sings good life, sweet life, my life, now and forever. I live, I move, I have my being in you. Hallelujah. Three things she's got to do, but she works that hallelujah. For the schedule's tight after tasty bites in the big bold afternoon light. She says there is always something to be grateful for, and as I count them more and more, sure shining. She seems to know that no one knows just how or when it ends, and that every day we breathe is a good day. Hallelujah. For all the saints in labor she prays hallelujah. And she says good night to the schedules tight and the tasty bites and the dancing blue moonlight. She's praying good life, sweet life, my life, now and forever. I live, I move, I have my being in you. Hallelujah. 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 Oh, hallelujah. Old man Curtis lived for in a rich world. He didn't know he had it all. Old man Curtis lived for in a rich world, yeah. He didn't know he had it all. Hey, y'all, which means you all are welcome, one and all, wide, narrow, short, and tall, to this lesson as I learn it. Now sit back, relax while I serve it. This little tale I will not be telling. Instead, I'll sweetly sing a story featuring a fictional fella named Curtis. I think you will recognize this Curtis. It all begins once upon a time. Curtis made the climb to corporate heights supply. Had a new corner office, big view, big tray with a softness. They called him sir, he told them what to do, where to be, when to begin, when to be through. Always gains and never losses. He was beloved by his bosses, but he worked hard, you see, hard as he could imagine. Try as he might, he could not fight the feeling there was something amiss. Oh man, Curtis looked for in a rich world. He didn't know he had it all. Oh man, Curtis looked for in a rich world. Yeah, he didn't know he had it all. Curtis had a lovely house. He had a lovely spouse who kept a lovely house. Out Jones and the Joneses. He was winning the war of what we owns is. But all he did was work. He took no time to play. Hug a tree, smell a rose for even half a day. He said, I push, push, push till I'm skin and bones. Is whatever else I'm not to do. 'Cause times were hard, you see. Hard as he could imagine. He said, I get what I can what I get, and save it for a rainy day. Oh man, Curtis lived for in a rich world. He didn't know he had it all. Oh man, Curtis lived for in a rich world. Yeah, he didn't know he had it all. And one night he had a dream of taking flight on outstretched wings. He only needed to trust to glide, just glide.
I'm supposed to do Road to Heaven 564 again.
Curtis woke up with a
But I might change,
revelation,
because
an
of course
epiphany
we're
of the great mystery, a realization. He said, good God, and oh my God, how long have I been asleep?
What's the matter?
He learned life will always bring whatever he imagines. Now try as he might, he cannot fight the feeling all is truly well. Oh, Curtis is born no more in this rich world. Wow, wow, he really knows he has it all. You know, Curtis, well, he ain't no Pope Curtis, no. Curtis is born no more in this rich world. Now, you know he knows he has it all. He finally knows he has it all.
I'll let it sit there.
Hey, Curtis knows he has it all. Curtis is born no more in this rich world. He really knows he has it all. You know he got his money right. Now he finally learned to love and live his life. Yeah. Curtis is born no more in this rich world. Now, you know he knows he has it all. So when you're feeling down, way underground, I'm gonna take you where the vibe is higher.
Everybody, welcome. It is High Vibe Saturday Night with Ray Davis. We're here. This is the show for evolutionary revolutionaries just like you. We're here to start a holy mess in the world. We're going to start some holy trouble, y'all, by raising our consciousness to the point where we're evolving consciously. We're becoming the better version of ourselves over and over and over again. And as we rise, all boats begin to rise with us. The only solution truly is an evolution revolution. So I'm grateful that you're here joining me this evening. And as usual, I am joined by my cohort, my ace boon coon, my queen, Lori Wilder Davis. Lori, why don't you say hello to the people?
Hey, everybody.
Lori's helping us with the what's and the nots to make sure that we pay attention to y'all. So those of you who are joining us either through YouTube or through Facebook, feel free to chime in on that chat room, that chat area of the comments. Let us know who you are and where you're coming from. So we want to give you a little shout out. And if you have any questions throughout the time that we're here today, just precede your comment with the letter Q. And that's supposed to be with a letter Q, and we'll do our best to catch it. So again, let us know who you are, where you're coming in from, and we'll be glad to recognize you. And if you don't really want to be recognized, just say who you are and where you're from, and say just keep it on the down low, because they ain't supposed to know I'm checking into this stuff. All right, so thank you for joining us. We're here every Saturday night. I'm your host, Ray Davis. I'm presenting some original high vibe music for you tonight. And we do have a special guest this evening, none other than the Reverend Jason Mitchell, who will be joining us very, 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 very soon. So as we're getting on the way, just want to say thank you again to our lovely host. Our sponsor, that would be Gwen Keneally of Back to the Kitchen. If you need catering, food catering for your event, your party, bar, bat mitzvah, wedding like Lori and I had, be sure to check in on Gwen. Backtothekitchencatering.com. She'll take care of you. And the reason I'm bringing up this particular business is because I know how she does business. And so we're in the business here at High Vibe Saturday Night with Ray Davis, with promoting businesses that are elevated themselves, have a consciousness about them of bringing good and taking care of their employees, taking care of the customers, taking care of the environment. So we're all about that here at High Vibe Saturday Night. So I'm so grateful that you all are here. I do want to start with a song, if that's all right with y'all. Wait, I forgot. New feature. A new feature. So I have asked my good friend, Liz Racy, who is a religious science practitioner, licensed practitioner. I think that she gives the most wonderful prayers. Every day she's there on Facebook praying. And when she prays, she doesn't just pray audibly. She uses ASL, American Sign Language. ASL, not ALS. That's a whole different thing. ASL. She uses ASL to communicate her prayers. And I thought it would be wonderful to join in prayer with Liz this evening. So just sit back, relax, and enjoy. Get it? Let's get into a prayerful space.
Hello. Let's pray. Just take a breath. What is that? That is the breath of God. God loved itself so much. God loved each one of us into existence. How wonderful to know that. God loves each one of us. God is always guiding us. So right now, we surrender, we let go of any hard place in our heart, any hard place in our mind, any negative thought. Right now, we're going to let that go. That is not God. God is living through our mind and our heart with love, with peace, with joy, with harmony. So right now, we're surrendering ourselves to that truth. God is here now, loving us That love heals our body. That love heals our mind. That love heals our emotional body. That love allows good to flow. That love. Let the love of God flow now. Release any blocks. Something wonderful is happening. You are a walking miracle. Why? God loved you into existence. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Mother, Father, God, all is good, and so it is. Amen.
That is wonderful. Ah, I just love it, love it, love it, love it. Thank you, Liz, for providing that prayer, and I hope that it lifted you up. And if you weren't able to grok from Liz's prayer, our theme for this month is love. So we're going to be talking about love and dealing with all aspects of love, or I don't know if you can ever deal with all aspects of love, but we're going to be dealing with love this month. And so if you have any questions or comments about love, your experience with love, your ideas about love, your challenges with love, go ahead and put them into the chat area there. Again, preceded with a Q. It may not be a question, maybe a comment, but preceded with a Q and we know what's going on. Okay, Lori, any shout outs I need to make? Anybody joining us I need to say hello to?
Yes, there's a Kimberly Jackson from Canada.
Kimberly Jackson from Canada.
Jack Shaw.
Jack Shaw?
Yes, Jack Shaw.
Kimberly, thank you for joining us all the way from Canada. Oh, Canada.
Heidi from
Brian and Heidi.
Hawthorne.
Yes, for the Ray Davis experience. Thank you, Heidi and Brian.
Lizette from Rio Grande.
What? Lizette? She's in Puerto Rico. Rio Grande, Puerto Rico. Oh, hey, Lizette, how you doing, baby?
Christopher Barron from Canada as well.
Oh, another Canadian. Man, the Canadian's taking over. I love it.
And
Christopher, good to see you here, man.
Rashi and
Rashi's here? Rashi here from good old LA. Yeah, good to see you, Rashi.
Wendy and Amber.
Wendy and Amber, yes, thank you. Is that Wendy Vitalich?
Yes, it is.
I owe her an email. Yes, I have some information coming for you, Wendy. Don't think I forgot you. And then Amber and Tim, yay! Thank you all for joining us. This is going to be a real good program. So thank you for letting us know that you're here.
Oh, it's an Yvette Leak from Santa Cruz.
Yvette Leak from Santa Cruz. Yes. Oh, that's where bonus daughter number 2 did her undergraduate work at UC Santa Cruz. So we know about Santa Cruz up there. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us, Yvette.
David, more Canadians, the better.
Oh, man. David Neal. Lizette's husband, David Neal, just jumped in. More Canadians, the better. Oh, yes. I'll say yes. And Wallace is here, too. I just saw that. Wallace! Let's go down, kid. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We know. Okay. Huh?
He just turned 4.
He just turned 4. Happy birthday, Wallace. Happy birthday. Happy birthday, dear Wallace. Happy birthday to you. Hey, he just turned 4. Oh, man. All right, so thank you, everybody. I think it's time to move into a song. And I love this song. I use it as the bumper song for us starting off. You'll recognize it. It's Got to Be Love. If we're ever going to sing that song, it's definitely time for this one. And one line I love from this song is, you think you're going to get it together by working on what is wrong. You can't make it better by singing that same old sad song. So when you're feeling down, way underground, I'm going to take you where the vibe is higher. It's got to be love. So let's get on with that. Is that you? No.
So when you're feeling down, way underground, I'm gonna take you where the vibe is high. You got your head hung down. You got your back all bent up. You got your weeping eyes, looking at that pain you keep pent up. And you think you're gonna get it together by working on what is wrong. Sugar, now you can't make it better.
Gotta be love. Oh yeah. Hey. Don't let the sadness fool you. No, no. Ain't none in the world can hold me back. When you feel my power moving through you, hey, hey, well, the truth will set you free to know ain't nothing that you like. So get on up, sing hallelujah, hallelujah, and feel the love, feel it all around you. Come on, get up, stand in your power, yeah. We're gonna get it together by working on what is wrong. Looking out, I'm here to tell you that I can take away your shame, song. So when you're feeling down, hey, I'm gonna take you up. That is higher. No need to ask my name, you know it. It's gotta be love, real love. No matter where you be, I'm right beside you. I'm gonna take you out. That's where the vibe is higher. Just put your trust in me. You know my name's got to be love. Singing unconditional love, real love. Come on, hold with me here. Yeah. That's right. You ain't gonna get it together, but know what is wrong. I'm here to tell you that I can take away your sense of that song. Don't feel it down, way down, way. I'm gonna take you where it's higher. No need to ask for my name, you know it. It's gotta be love. No matter where you be, vibe is higher. I'm gonna take you where, right when the vibe is higher. Just put your trust in me, sugar, and know my name. It's gotta be love. Hey, no. Gotta be love, gotta be love. Oh yeah, yeah, hey, hey. Yeah, that worked out all right. Is that okay? Did y'all everybody hear everything you needed to hear?
He likes a lot.
Yay, Janine, thank you. I'm glad you done. Yeah. Okay, so before we go any further, I would like to tell you about our guest this evening. It is none other than the Reverend Jason Mitchell. And this is what I have to tell you about Jason. First, formal. Reverend Jason Devion Mitchell is an assistant minister at Agape International Spiritual Center, where he manages Agape's prayer ministry and supports the practitioner corps. He also serves as the director of Agape's Sacred Service Ministry. He is also a facilitator with BEAM, that's BEAM, Black Emotional and Mental Health Collective, with BEAM Collective. It is a national training movement and grant-making institution that is dedicated to the healing, wellness, and liberation of Black and marginalized communities. For more than 10 years, and this surprised me. I didn't know it was more than 10 years, but for more than 10 years, Reverend Jason has facilitated our daily prayer call, a morning devotional call where people from around the globe gather in prayer, affirming truth and engaging in transformational discussions. Whether he's serving the community with our youth, facilitating workshops, providing spiritual counseling, advising business leaders, or simply being a student of truth, Reverend Jason is constantly leading through service. His utmost desire is that all of humanity waken to the truth of our divinity and master walking this journey as love incarnate. Perfect, perfect person for us today. So I'm going to bring Reverend Jason on. Give me a second to remember which doohickey to do when and where. Okay, so I'm going to get him out of the guest. I think I did it. Let's say that I didn't. So I'm going to get him. All right, that does that. And then I'm going to do like this. And then I'm going to bring him on. Reverend Jason, can you hear me?
Loud and clear, sounding amazing, Brother Ray.
Oh, thank you. It's so good to see you here. I'm so grateful you're here.
Absolutely, man. I'm really glad to be here with you.
So before we go any further, I know I read the nice fancy bio for you. I did that. Okay. Now
You did that.
let me tell you a little bit on the personal tip how I come to know Reverend Jason. So I'm trying to remember the year. It must have been about 2008, maybe 2009, that we sat together in the tenor section of the Agape International, the world famous Agape International Choir.
Yes.
Yeah, under the direction of who's her? Yeah, Ricky Byers. If she called me struggling to find her name,
Don't y'all
you know what
tell
happened?
Ricky. Don't y'all tell Ricky that Ray forgot her name.
Wait, what happened is I was thinking ahead to what I wanted to say about the work of Ricky Byers and us
Yeah.
sitting in the tennis section, being the
Ooh.
recipient from time to time of that eye. Woo. Ricky will mess up your feelings, man. If you sang in the wrong place, the wrong note, wrong words, missing this and that. All with love. That's right, Lori. All with love, but definitely pointed.
Absolutely.
But yeah, we sat together and sang together in the Agape International Choir. And what I learned about you, Reverend Jason, is even before you were a reverend, you were a reverend. But
Mm.
in the sense that, but real, you know, you were real, you were personable, you were approachable. Um, the truth teachings were making a difference in your life, and I don't know if you've noticed, but I mean, I observed your change, kind of a change taking over. Can you tell us a little bit about what that calling to both practitioner core and to becoming a minister was like? How that happened?
Uh, so I grew up with spirituality as a part of my life, but more in the form of religion, Christian religion. So there was a time period in my life, probably in my mid 20s, where there was consideration of going into ministry. I come from a ministerial background. My grandfather was a bishop in the Apostolic Church. I have two uncles who would become pastors, and then one is a bishop in that same denomination, even though they've changed a little bit in the organization and the church itself. And then in the early 2000s, when I left my uncle's church, who I had been serving at for a very long time, a little over a year after that, I got to Agape. Now, I wasn't looking for spirituality. I wasn't looking for a church. I wasn't looking for anything. But I got invited to come to Agape, and I've been at Agape ever since.
Wow.
The resonance, the energy, words that I wasn't using back then. I wasn't using resonance. I wasn't using frequency. I wasn't using energy. I wasn't using consciousness. I was probably at that stage having taken a bit of a break from my Christian walk, not even using the word faith that much in terms of my life and my journey. And so I started coming to Agape and couldn't stop coming. After about the first 2 years were a little bit sporadic. The first year a little bit sporadic. The second year a little more frequently. But by the time I got a certain point, I just decided, there was just a decision to say, I'm going to be here all the time. And so this is about 2008. This is about 2008. And I started taking classes, and the classes really work on me. I start getting tools that I imagined. I just started envisioning what my life would have been like if I hadn't had these tools.
Hmm.
Uh, I just started catching a vision for things that I had never had a vision for life, for peace, for love, for harmony, for connection, seeing the interconnectivity of all life. And I had to keep taking classes and keep taking classes, not just because my intellect was curious, because the intellect was doing its thing and my ego was doing its thing, and it wanted more and more and more. Jump, 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 walk, walk, walk like Pac-Man. And then there became this thing where I started to change and had to figure out like certain things aren't important anymore. Other
Uh-huh.
things are really important. And at a certain point, I knew that I was being called to become a practitioner. Half of it was because the spirit just kept sending random people to tell me. Um, I just
I
think of
love
like
that.
some of the folks who who had been at Agape for a while and they could see people and they had seen practitioners or they were practitioners and everybody go, oh, you're going to be a practitioner or you're going to be a practitioner. I was like, who asked you? I didn't ask you,
Really?
but I just accept that spirit asked them to tell me. And a similar thing happened with ministry. You know, I got to the end of practitioner studies and I knew I wasn't done. And not just in terms of studying, but a particular way I wanted to hold and be held by this precious thing that we call our teaching, that we call New Thought Ageless Wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
And so answering the call to ministry, you know, I can definitely say Reverend Joanne Coleman, even Reverend Michael, following our graduation and initiation in 2012, kind of saw something in me that they just kind of were like giving their little soft wag of the fingers like, oh, I see you, you haven't opened up your blooms yet, your bud is still held tight,
Ah,
uh, but you're starting to pulsate like the energy, and you're staying rooted. And I stayed rooted. I stayed rooted in agape, and my roots are now uh, 18 years. This is yeah. My roots are now 18 years deep
wow.
in one place.
Wow.
And now that I've been on staff at Agape for about 6 years or so, and been a minister since 2020, so there's just a lot about how my life has shown up, and you know, kind of how I'm moving. But that's kind of been the journey.
Wow. Wow. So much there to dig into. I'm just again thinking about my own experience with you and going from sitting side by each in the choir loft to when I was no longer with the choir and hearing you speak.
Mm,
Those first talks and on and on and on and on, and just I've always been impressed with the not just the depth of your knowledge. Knowledge is one thing, but how is it applied? How can it be packaged and communicated? Because we're talking
mhm,
about eternal truths, really. We're not talking about anything new under the sun, as saying in Ecclesiastes, but we're talking about things that have been spoken of before so many times by so many people over thousands of years. Yet your particular way of expressing these truths is really dynamic. Lori and I, we've had the benefit of being a couple different places with Jason where he's been speaking, in particular at Soul Center OC. All my Soul Center
yes.
people, how y'all doing? And just how wonderful it is to sit under your teaching. So that's terrific. Are you doing any teaching through Agape now?
I don't have any regular teaching assignments. I have things that I've been germinating on for years that I've wanted to do, whether it's a workshop or, and then from time to time I get the invitation from Reverend Keith to go out to Soul Center, or like just in last month in June, the invitation from Reverend Michael to come and speak at Agape. But there are some things that I'm kind of that are stewing for some regular expressions, because I think that that's sort of the next thing that's being called for me to have something on a regular basis as well.
Very good, very good. I think I can kind of spy a comment from David Neals. Is that one? What
I
what?
remember the first time I ever heard you speak at Agape, it was like, oh yeah.
Did you hear that? David said, "I remember the first time I heard you speak at Agape. It was like, oh yeah."
He really said, agreed,
So
David.
Lori was there because Lori was a part of my graduating class for practitioner studies in 2012, and so the first time that I spoke at Agape was at graduation. And
Oh,
so
okay.
I gave Janet Dion gave the call that the practitioners receive from a veteran practitioner, and I gave the response for my class. And the one thing, like, I couldn't tell you anything that I said except for one idea, and that was that I stood there speaking as one of 12, because there were 12 in our graduating class. And what has been consistent, from whether it's Aisha Mason reminding me of this story or anybody else, is that when the energy came through, it was like a freight train. It came through me so powerful, so fast, communicating so many pieces of information. And then it was like, you're in the station, it's over. And over the years, what's happened, and I sort of talked to Reverend Michael about this after I spoke at Agape last month, which is I've matured in my ability to be with the energy. Right. I've matured with my ability to be with the energy and all of the different energies that are around, right? And to allow myself to really be used by it, in spite of what my ego might say, in spite of any sort of sometimes not feeling prepared, not feeling confident, not feeling whatever. I've never arrived at the place to speak unprepared, even if hours beforehand I've still had a void of what spirit was going to articulate.
Sure.
And so my relationship with it has become more intimate, because I've had to trust. It's like, you mean you're not going to give it to me until a couple of hours? Okay, fine. So I'm trusting that it's going to be exactly what you meant. And I also will probably say on the other side, if I had probably gotten it sooner, I might have gotten in the way. So I've
Yeah.
learned to not get in the way, and that is really validating. It's encouraging, and it's something no one from outside of me can give me. That's only my relationship with spirit where I can get that, and that's only because I keep showing up for it, and it's never not showing up for me.
Well, see, there we go. It reminds me of something we were talking about a little bit earlier, just before the show started, about the what I'll say persistence of love, because this is obviously the result of a love relationship between you and what I'll term as the living one and God,
Hmm.
by
Yeah.
whatever name. Now, I want to interject something right now for those who are catching all this. I know that probably the majority of people that are listening at this point know the reference points. They know what about the Agape International Spiritual Center and some of the characters. For instance, he mentioned Reverend Joanne Coleman and Reverend Michael Bernard Beckwith. These are Reverend Michael is the founder of the Agape International Spiritual Center, which is a trans-denominational spiritual center located in Los Angeles, actually out of Beverly Hills now. And then Reverend Joanne Coleman is an associate minister of the same. Uh, both brilliant, mystical. You hear any of them speak, you're good to go. Trust me. Uh, and Reverend Joanne is also very musical. So a lot of the references are around that particular spiritual community, just in case y'all know. Now, one other thing I wanted to say, and this is going right into the reason I wanted this particular guest here. One of the reasons I wanted, because we share a similar background. Now, I didn't grow up in the apostolic church, but I grew up in another fundamentalist Protestant denomination, and
Hmm.
upon which there were, a pretty big load of thou should and shouldst kind of things. There was a particular kind of worship service. There was a particular orientation that I was given towards God that is different for me now. And I wanted to, so I want to ask you, Reverend Jason, what has been your experience in integrating or not the early teachings that formed you and what you have come to know to be truth teachings now?
Oh, it's definitely become an integration, but it did not happen initially. Right. So when I left my spiritual community, it was on the other side of a divorce. And I was very involved in that community and did not find it to be a responsible choice to stay involved according to the teachings coming out of the marriage that I was in, and uh, moving into a new direction in my life. And so I was taking a full break, probably the only full break I ever took from spirituality. But I was actually at the same time doing a lot of other kinds of reading, which then made me available for Agape when I would arrive there. And so when it came to Agape, I was all Agape all the time. Every recording that Ricky had, I had all the songs, I was singing them. I was singing like I was a member of the choir from the congregation. Had them all. It's almost one of those things that I probably displayed a very fundamentalist approach, which was I took a full break from a lot of other kinds of music and was allowing the agape music, the music of agape, to really carry me, to help me heal, to help me do some transformation, and just to open up. Right. And so when I got to agape, it was meditation, learning about meditation. It was taking classes, whether it was Reverend Michael and Reverend Cheryl doing their classes together that they would do,
Mm-hmm.
whether it was Michelle Mache teaching about meditation. And then just eventually, I started to see um, glimpses of my old teachings being more clearly uh, in this community. Because agape, like my mother came to agape one time and she brought her Bible, and I was like, you ain't going to use it. Because agape does not have its own text that it uses. It doesn't only pull from one text. And so, one of the things that has happened to me over the years is a reclamation of that text into reading it differently. Of course, Reverend Dr. Joanne Coleman, and her studying of Rocco Errico's teaching and translation in the Aramaic translation of the Bible, but also just all of these other scholars, Dr. Will Coleman, who's up in the Bay Area in Northern California, who brings all of this depth and breadth to this same teaching. And then when you go into New Thought and then you see the books that are presented from folks where they're giving you the ability to see the Bible and to learn the allegories and see the imagery and to see how these things are not literal. And it completely changed. And so I began to reclaim my relationship with that and reclaim these stories that
There we go.
so many people that are a part of the agape community, they don't know these stories.
That's
But I
right.
hear references all over the place through Reverend Michael because he's been saturated in the Bible as well, especially his teachers, Dr. Daniel L. Morgan and others.
Mm-hmm.
They were at that time really more of a progressive Christianity, right, than just an outright new thought, right? It was the United Church of Religious Science, but it
Mm-hmm.
centered Christianity. But Reverend Michael's journey, which I've benefited from, you've benefited from, we've all, those who are a part of that community, benefited from, was bringing in all of the Eastern teaching and all the people who have made such a powerful impact on his perception of spirit. And so that interweaving continues even now. There's a lot of desire on my part to explore Islam, to
Mm.
explore other teachings, to see how the waves and the pathways of new thought will flow through there, because I believe they'll flow through everywhere.
This is perfect. Perfect. So much of what you said has mirrored my own experience in sort of integrating what we have here. So I'm going to provide a song actually that speaks to that. We're going to return to Reverend Jason in just a little while. And
I'll be back.
Yeah, I have a song, a new song that really speaks to this. It's called Road to Heaven. So we're going to jump into that about now. That no matter where you're coming from, we're all destined to the same place. Because the road to heaven begins and ends within. Many are called, but few to choose to walk that narrow road into heaven. Prefer they, it seems, to play and wander wide and far among the lost and found. I wonder if they've heard the news that every road is the road into heaven. Even as we pretend to see, our inner light is darkness all around. Good news, the road we're traveling on has only one destination,
I used to question if I too was living life that would fit me for heaven. If any faults or failures found by some around could truly damn my soul. Amazing, this grace some sing, it can't be just for some. It's crazy to deny the one who gives the grace, who sets trillions of stars in space and knows its life is every race beneath the sun. The one, the one, the one, bottom, bottom. Good news, the all, the living one, for us has one destination. We're already welcome. We're already welcome there. Oh, we're already welcome. For the road to heaven begins and ends within. Many are called, but few to choose. I wonder if they've heard the news. We're already welcome. That's the road to heaven. It is within. Yes, yes, yes. All
Ooh wee.
all right, let's bring Reverend Jason back. Yeah. Did you dig that song? Is that all right?
Man, I love that. You are definitely one. Agape has so many wonderful artists. And
Yes.
I've loved how you have really not just tuned in, but that you are evolving even in your writing. So much of your writing over the years. You say you get to hear me speak when we've been, and it's easily been like a half dozen times, I think, over 5 or 6 years where I've been speaking, you've been singing
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
And so just to hear your writing and how exquisite it is and your tenderness to spirit, your availability to it, and then just your mastership of your instrument, right? Because even when we were talking backstage on Sunday, I get to talk with Ray backstage, y'all. When we were talking backstage on Sunday, and you came off after you sang for the first service, and you knew you wanted to give more than you gave in the first service. And I was like, it's coming. Because if you have that mindset, if you already have that consciousness, I know it's coming. And then third service blew the roof off. So I was like, oh. I mean, your sincerity, your love for for God shows up in how you love your instrument, and that's your voice, your writing. You are a multi instrumentalist, dimensionalist for sure.
That's good.
Well, thank you, and it is a instrumentalist. Yeah. Do we have any questions, Lori? Anything that popped up that we want to address? We're good.
Questions is more or less Leroy Martin is
Oh,
watching.
Leroy Martin's on.
Mm-hmm.
I have not seen that brother in a long time. International Leroy.
Kelvin
Okay,
Benjamin,
Kelvin. Oh, yes, wonderful, Kelvin. I was glad you're here.
Arlene Brown,
Carlene Brown is here. Carlene, thank
Deshelle
you so much.
Taylor,
Deshelle Taylor. Yes, thank you,
Rob
Deshelle.
McDonald.
Rob McDonald. That's another brother we need to have on the show. Rob, you will get a call, brother. Be ready.
I need to see Rob too.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh, gotta have Rob on. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you, Lori. She's so good at this. Anybody? Yeah, let me know as we move on. So,
Alyssa Godfrey.
oh, Alyssa Godfrey, Alyssa.
Yes.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Thank you for being here, Alyssa. Y'all, you don't know. It really just warms my heart. And before I go any further, something I should have said earlier. There, if you're on YouTube, and this is where we're going to be living, y'all. So those of you who are catching us on Facebook, it's not forever. We're going to move everything to YouTube eventually. But if you would be so kind, those of you on Facebook, do it afterwards as well. But go on over to the YouTube channel, which is The Ray Davis, and click the subscribe button. Please do so. And well, yes, thumbs up is helpful if you have an account there. But just go ahead and click the subscribe button. It will help tremendously. Really will. Okay, so Reverend Jason, you started leaning into something here. You're talking about love of instrument. Let's talk about the theme. Let's talk a little bit more about love, because really we haven't been speaking about anything other than a grand love story between you and Spirit, something that we all can really recognize in our own lives. But let's talk about the subject of love. There's so many things we can capture, but if from your point of view as a minister, what would you? How would you define love? I'll just give you a
Huh,
lob. That's a lob right there. Easy
huh,
question,
huh.
right?
You know, I lean into the teachings that I've been nurtured in the simplest way to describe the indescribable is really the givingness and the givenness of
Mm,
existence itself, right? There's these ideas that we have about love that are most often uh, adjusted because of human interaction. But it, spirit, the divine presence, source, the great creator, it gave
hmm,
and keeps on giving. And it continues to give. And it, to me, shows us that that's really what love is. And the limited idea that we have of our own existence, because we hold sort of an egoic reference as if this is our permanent existence, as if this body is all that I ever am and all
hmm,
that I would ever be, it sort of encapsulates and sort of cuts us off from that givingness. Because the givingness gave us this body, the givingness gave us the consciousness to be aware of it. And source, spirit, the divine presence, that love, we talk about it being unconditional. We talk about it being all conditional. We talk about it being something that doesn't look for anything in return. We can talk about all of these things, but in the end, we're talking about a thing that is a perpetual, constant, unchanging,
hmm,
giving it into existence that showed up for humanity before we had language, right? It was providing for humanity before we had language, before we had understanding, before we had fully developed. It kept providing and providing and does continue to provide all the things for our growth, development, our unfoldment, our evolution. For me, even in this moment, love is a givingness that has no withhold to it. It
hmm,
doesn't hold anything back to us that is for our highest good. And as I think about love from that perspective, it can adjust my experience of every single relationship that I've ever had.
mm. Wow. Okay, so I'm so glad that you were able to handle that softball question so eloquently. Brother, that's beautiful. So I'm keying into a couple things about that. You're talking about the unrelenting givingness of that thing. So again, for those who might be not quite so hip to the jive, um, when when Reverend Jason references, and because I'm kind of going with this too, references the divine spirit, God. We can use the word God, but there are so many other ways to express it because we're talking about a presence, to coin a phrase from Reverend Michael, that is not an absence, that it's
Yes.
always ever present everywhere throughout all of its creation. In fact, from my studies, it is fully expressing itself as everything, kind of in the way that we meditate upon something. It meditates upon itself as all of creation. So it's impossible to be separate from it if we're breathing, living, if we're existing at all. And so that thing is always expressing, always giving love. So you're keying into the givingness of love. So here's another question for you then. How does that jive in with the idea of love as it showed up in the song? Looking for love in all the wrong places. Looking for love in so many places.
Well, that I mean that's the thing, right? In our pre combos and our chitter chatter beforehand, we were talking about how many of us learned love from people who didn't know anything about love.
Mm,
I was in a couple of rich conversations this morning at our practitioner meeting, and the conversation around growing up in homes where there are misunderstandings around love, but also just the music. Someone
mm,
was saying the music of the 50s and how that sort of saturated and colored her experience of love. And then I started thinking, it was like, well, think about decade after decade after decade, and you get the late 60s and the 70s and how the language, but what was the impact upon the people of those generations? And it's just very interesting because we haven't we've continued to expand, and people have been able to get free even while other people are trying to hold them back and to try to take things back to the good old days. There are a couple of people running for office who have said some sort of version of, do you remember a time when we could sit down at the table and have a dinner with our family and da 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 da, we can get back to that time if you get rid of who's president now, or whatever they're saying. And I'm saying there are so many people who never had that experience in their life, so they don't know what you're talking about.
mm,
And so many of the writers who've written movies and books and things, they're writing because they had the urge to write, but their understanding of love was the experiment of writing, not lived experience, right? Many people, if we go back to the Rumis and all of these spiritual teachers for hundreds or thousands of years ago, were peering into it.
mm,
They were getting a glimpse of it. And when you start talking about the names of love, we could just call it breath,
mm.
because the person who is has the exhausted lung, it wants for nothing more than the next breath. And the breath and spirit wants them to have that breath. The person who's thirsty, we could call love water,
Come on.
because they want nothing more than the thing that is going to provide a salve, a soothing to them.
Uh huh.
So when we start looking for love in all the wrong places, we're talking about our own human foibles, not love. We're not
Mm-hmm.
really talking about us, right? We're not really talking about spirit. We're not really talking about love. We're talking about all of our awkwardness and our clumsiness and our trauma and the difficulties and the way we disrespected the love that was given to us, the way
Mm-hmm.
we
Mm-hmm.
dishonored the love that was given to us. And we're looking at all of these things, but the listener always isn't keyed in. The listener, like me and my friends, have had hilarious times going back and listening to the lyrics of very, very popular songs that we used to scream to the top of our lungs, singing. It was like, ooh, that was terrible. Oh my gosh. I mean, and this isn't just my generation. You can go into every generation, and there's just these songs
Yep.
that are just like, ooh, oh my goodness. And you just have a good time, because at a certain point, a person can awaken to the fact that, oh, they're telling a great story. They're not talking about love, or they're disconnected from love. They're doing it, and they're singing or writing from their ego, their separate identity, and they don't even know that they themselves are this thing that they are looking
Ooh.
for.
Yeah.
They themselves are this thing that they're pursuing. And so it's really never, and I would imagine maybe both you and Lori could have a similar testimony of the love that the two of you discovered as you discovered the love that you were as individuals. And I can say
Yes.
the same thing about me and my beloved Leslie, my wife, is that we were definitely on the road doing our work when we pulled up alongside each other and said, "You want to go? Yeah, let's go." And we've been rolling ever since. But it would not have worked. We've laughed because we've talked about versions of us, who we were when we first met as friends.
Yeah, yeah.
That would not have worked.
No, no,
That
no.
no, because we weren't who we were when it happened 4 years ago when we started dating, and it's one of those things. It's like, oh, forever pursuing it outside in another person, what was within us all along, what was
Wow.
who we were all along.
Oh, that is lovely. That is lovely. And your timing is impeccable, Rev, because I wanted to bring up Leslie and the fact that y'all are still relatively newlyweds. When did y'all get hitched? When did this happen?
It was on the 1st of October in the year 2022.
Yes, it
It's
was.
it's a real easy one for me to remember. 10-1-2-2.
Woo!
But yeah,
Gotta have those
so
tricks, man.
in on August 18th,
Mhm.
2019, we went on our first date. That's easy to remember because that's also her mother's birthday. I mean,
Oh,
Spirit was like working
whoa,
on,
hooking you
so I
up.
got all the memory tools in the bag.
Yeah, man. It was kind of fun there too because seeing the subtle changes in when it came time to talk about Sister Leslie. Now, I remember. Okay, I'm not going to give away too much. Just so folks know, on most Sundays, I'm singing in some spiritual center, so I'm not able to be at Agape every Sunday. But when I would get there, it was often backstage because I'm doing something with music. And I would bump into Reverend Jason. And about the time, this was maybe about 2 years ago, and you started talking a little bit more about being with her. And because, you weren't one of those guys who just bragging, nothing about that, because she's lovely. She's wonderful. Leslie's a wonderful woman.
It's
But
true. Go on.
there was a tenderness showing up around you, man. And I mean, Jason is cool. Jason is just cool. Jason is a dude. You know what I'm saying? He's not walking around with a halo. There is a halo, but it's not like that. Jason is real. But there was a tenderness showing up about you. So talk to me a bit about, because I don't mind opening up to this. Lori is my partner, my spiritual partner. When I was impressed when I first started to come to Agape, and that's where I met Lori. I met Lori at Agape. When I first started coming to Agape, I remember on a Wednesday night, Reverend Michael was taking questions from the congregation. This is back, so it was probably about 2007, 2008, somewhere in there. And someone asked about marriage or relation. They were engaged, I think it was. And what he said was that, you know, to for a great union, you really should be spiritual partners because marriage and other close relationships like that bring out something in you, bring out opportunities for growth that you can't have otherwise in any other kind of relationship. Would you say
Yes.
that is true in your condition with Leslie?
1000%. So I've heard him teach this, and then I teach a version of this myself. Relationships are the highest place potential for growth. All of them. Why? Because of sustained interaction, because of having through that sustained interaction, your ego is taking pictures of them. Your ego, their ego is taking pictures of you. Sometimes it's because of the flowers you brought. Sometimes it's because you keep leaving your clothes all around the house. Sometimes it's because you forgot something that was really important to them. And it's just taking all these. So healing on a constant basis, forgiveness on a constant basis, taking nothing personal and
Mm,
giving people the benefit on a constant basis, doing your very best and understanding that you're still going to drop one of the balls, or some of the plates that you're spinning are going to fall, and knowing that about the other person, and still offering compassion, offering love. They're still healing, they're still growing. Things that don't have anything to do with the two of you, you're going to spin unintentionally on the other person, and that's another opportunity. It's just constant and consistent. And so we laughed because the early part of our relationship, it was just, man, it was, we were honeymooning for years before we got engaged.
Mm-hmm.
And then life started happening, and then we were started getting these growth opportunities, and man, were we taking them on. And we weren't fighting, we're not fighters, but we would have discussion and we would have conflict, and both of us had really good breaks. And what I mean by that is like, oh yeah, I can't really talk to you right now, or I can't say that right now. I don't have the ability to put this. And again, this wasn't like all the time, but it was at a good enough pace that I was thankful that I was going to do this difficult thing with this person. And
Ah.
I said to her, I'm grateful and I'm willing to do the hard things with you, where there would be easy that the ego could cause us to use hurtful language or to just be in reaction. And it's the biggest flex as that a person can have, to not flex and assault the other person with your words or your
Mm-hmm.
body language or whatever, and to just also just be willing to be like, yo, I think it's time to have a difficult conversation. Let me tap her on the shoulder, because, or let her tap me on the shoulder or whatever. And so, again, we don't have a lot of that, but we've had enough of it that, man, I can't stop thanking the presence. I can't stop being in celebration for who I am in partnership, in relationship with. And I know that it's very different from anything either of us had ever experienced before. Yeah.
This is beautiful. Okay, so before we go any further, because we're just about out of time, but I really want to have you back because there's a particular thing, a depth of knowledge and experience that you have that I'd love our folks to benefit from, and that has to do with kind of what we might refer to as the mundane things, is where the rubber meets the road stuff, where
Yes.
people and
Yes.
people get together, where it just there's stuff I want to dig into with you, brother. So
Yeah.
if you would be so kind as to consent to come back at some point in time with
Hey, Lori, he trying to get me on a regular segment because I'm available.
yeah.
But of course, I would be honored to. I can, anytime I can share space with you, I'm
Okay.
there.
Wonderful, wonderful. Now, do you have anything that you'd like to speak to? Any announcements or anything you'd like to promote?
I'll share about the prayer call that I laugh too when I say that on October 1st, 2023, I will have been doing what I call our daily prayer call, or ODPC, for 11 years. And that started just after Lori and our class graduated and went through initiation, and we were just on a conference call line with a little bad music. You remember how bad music used to sound when you would try to listen to it over the phone back then? I would try to do a little bit of that, talk over it, and then say a good morning and do a prayer. And for a while it was at 7 a.m., but it's been at 6:30 a.m. for years. And so at 6:30 a.m. Pacific time, on my public page, Jason Davion Mitchell, or on my Instagram page, Conscious Lens, LENS, you can find previous recordings. But we're there in community, and now it's not just prayer. We share some readings, and we have some in I would say intense, but intimate. We have an intense, intimate dialogue of unpacking. Right now, for the past year, we've been reading 365 Science of Mind, which is Ernest Holmes' writings. We read through Meditations of My Heart, which is Howard Thurman's writing,
Mm-hmm.
and an author that I plucked from my father, Leo Buscaglia, who has a book called Born for Love. Leo Buscaglia used to teach. He's a professor, doctor. Leo Buscaglia was a professor at USC. This man had a class at USC called Love Class. And he would have conversations with students, college age students, really having conversations about love and real authentic love. He's long passed away. And I love the idea that I found out that Reverend Joanne knew him and they broke bread together. They knew each other back then. So it's a powerful book, Born for Love, um, that and other books that he has, but I share different readings from those texts currently, and the books switch out. But we pray at the end of every session, and we do ODPC. So feel free to join me anytime, and we'll see also what's emerging.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you, Reverend Jason. It has been my honor and my joy to have you share this space with us. Everybody, do check in with Reverend Jason's morning prayers. This is wonderful. It's been wonderful having you, and I look forward to the time when we get to have you back.
Absolutely. Peace and blessings, y'all.
And there's a switch there and a switch here. Boom. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Do we have time for another song? Lori's saying we have time for another song. It's 8:02. I wanted to finish by 8 o'clock, but I really do want to sing one more song for you, if that's all right. Okay. Going to finish this off with this wonderful song called Compassion.
Amber wants to know if they could get a reading list typed up.
A reading list typed up? Oh, okay. Do we have any other shout outs you need to? Any other questions? Anything?
No questions. There's lots of people.
Okay. Well, I'm just going to do this song called Compassion. Mm-hmm. Fear came by for tea one afternoon. She cried and cried so much that soon tea was tepid and forgotten. Change the setting. The fear said, this time I think he's gone for good. So in my mind I'm wondering, should I say this or that or not? Then suddenly the silence, right when everything was quiet, I knew what was needed. Just love and compassion. Up on the second ring, he mumbled before confessing he was totally besotted. The fear moaned, he's only toying with my heart. So now I'm wondering how to start to unstop a mind that's clotted. Then in the silence, right when everything was quiet, I knew what was needed. Just love and compassion. Fear, blinding, blinding fear. Fear no longer speaks through me. Oh no, it's love, love right now and here that clearly colors all I see. I see you now. I see true now. All is well. I forgot to mail the check today. Tomorrow someone's rightful pay will not be in their possession. Sometimes I feel like such a simple-minded fool. Maybe I should go back to school
pursue some safe profession. But in the silence, right here where everything is quiet, I know what is needed. Just love and compassion. Just love and compassion. Just love and compassion. Love and compassion. Love and compassion. La, 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 Oh, thank you, everybody. Listen, I really appreciate you being here. We will be here again next week at 7 p.m. Pacific. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors. Do us a favor, make sure that you click that subscribe button on YouTube. If you're joining us from Facebook, scoot on over to YouTube at The Ray Davis, and click that subscribe button. It would mean a whole lot to us. Next week's show, we have a very, very, very special guest. A very, very special guest. We will be joined by world famous, renowned mystical artist, Lori Wilder Davis. Now, I'm not kidding. Yes, she is my wife, but you have no idea. You may not know how talented this woman really is. The paintings you see behind me, these are just a bissel, just a drop in the bucket in terms of what she is able to deliver through her art. So this is a show that champions high vibe music and arts. We're going to talk to Lori about her brilliance as an artist and what it is that she's releasing into the world. And you'll get a chance to see some examples of her work. So I'm looking forward to that. Now, we're doing it next Saturday because it just happens to be her birthday. So we'll be celebrating Lori's birthday right here on High Vibe Saturday Night with Raiders. So thank you all for being with us. Thank you. Back to the kitchen. Thank you for supporting us, and thank you all for coming. Please do tell a friend. This is something that there's another phase we're about to move into. I will let you know as soon as that is ready, but it is in the works. We're going to be expanding. We'll just put it that way. Okay, everybody, I love you. Thank you so much. We will see you on next week. I'll try that again. Okay, I guess we'll see. We'll see you next week.